His mouth was still warm on my skin when I checked my phone under the sheets and saw the final bank transfer go through, $250,000. That was the moment I knew I was never coming back. Not to that bed. Not to that house. And certainly not to the man who had loved me with everything he had. He had no idea. He was still sleeping. His arms were wrapped around my waist like I was his whole world. And maybe once, I was. But I had already booked the ticket. My bags were in the car. And by the time the sun touched the living room curtains, I was flying toward the life I had always wanted. A life he never could have given me. Thank you for being here again. I appreciate every one of you who has subscribed. You are the heartbeat of this channel. And to my new viewers or those who have not subscribed yet, I cannot wait for you to hit that subscribe button. Your support is the fuel that keeps me telling these wild, real, unforgettable stories. Do not forget to drop your thoughts in the comments. I read every one. Now, let us dive in. I am Lena Carver. I am a 32-year-old white American woman, born and raised in a forgotten corner of Indiana. My life has never been soft. I came from bruises and bad credit, from evictions and cheap liquor. I learned early that love does not pay bills. But charm? Manipulation? A well-placed smile? Those can open doors. Thomas Blackwood was the man who found me half-starved behind the diner where I used to wait tables. He was 38, kind, solid, blue-collar. He owned a small mechanic shop, drove an old Chevy, and thought loyalty was a love language. He never once looked at another woman when we were together. But I cannot say the same for myself. The night I met Thomas, I had $23 in my bank account and 2 overdraft fees waiting to suffocate me. I had just finished a double shift and was leaning against the side of the building, crying behind a dumpster, when he parked that old rusted truck and stepped out like some broke savior. He handed me a Gatorade and said nothing at first. Just sat beside me, chewing a toothpick, his hands covered in grease. That was the moment I chose him. Not because I felt love. But because I saw opportunity. And Thomas? He saw a broken bird he could fix. He took me home that night. No sex. No expectations. Just a spare bedroom, a warm meal, and the kind of silence that felt safe. For the first time in years, I slept through the night without waking up from nightmares. He never rushed me. He never pushed. But I did. I leaned into his affection. I gave him soft kisses, let him pay my debts, let him think he was healing me. And maybe he was. But all the while, I was planning. Thomas put me through school, online courses in marketing and digital sales. He bought me a second-hand laptop. Every night, I stayed up researching affiliate links, influencer trends, and drop-shipping suppliers. Within a year, I launched my own beauty brand from our basement, fake lashes and lip gloss with private labeling. He was so proud. He bragged to his buddies. He said, "My girl is going to take over the internet." But he never asked what I was really doing online after midnight. He never asked who funded my first inventory bulk order. Because it was not him. It was a man named Rafe, a silent investor I met on a coaching webinar. Handsome, wealthy, and obsessed with helping young female entrepreneurs. He sent the money. I sent him pictures. Sometimes more than pictures. Thomas would be sleeping in the next room, thinking I was just working hard. He was right, just not in the way he thought. It was on our second anniversary. Thomas took me to a little cabin up in Wisconsin, nothing fancy, just trees, wine, and the smell of pine. He proposed under a sky full of stars. I cried real tears. But they were not because I was happy. They were because I knew exactly what I was doing. That ring was not a symbol of love. It was a receipt. A confirmation that I had officially secured my foundation. I said yes. He lifted me off the ground and spun me around, whispering how lucky he was. He had no idea the kind of woman he was holding. We got married the next spring, under a white tent, on a friend's farmland, with 80 guests and a buffet of barbecue and cornbread. I wore my hair in curls. He wore suspenders. People called us simple, wholesome, real. They had no idea I had already opened a secret business account with my name only on it. They had no idea I was paying off a Miami condo behind his back. They had no idea the woman walking down the aisle was not marrying for love. She was marrying for leverage. 3 months into marriage, my brand exploded. One viral TikTok, and suddenly I was making more in a week than Thomas made in 2 years. He smiled. He celebrated. He bought me flowers and made steak dinners and massaged my feet after every photo shoot. But I was already slipping away. I was hiring assistants. I was doing interviews. I was hosting influencer brunches in cities he had never even been to. And yet, every night, he still held me like I was the same girl he met behind that diner. I should have felt guilt. But I felt power. And once you taste that kind of power, the kind where you are no longer begging for scraps but choosing who gets access to your world, there is no turning back. I looked at Thomas one night as he snored beside me, and I thought, you are a good man, but you were never the goal. You were the ladder. And I was already climbing off you. Because I was going to the top, and there was no room for you where I was headed. I used to smile at Thomas like nothing had changed, even as everything inside me was already gone. He still came home at 5:30. He still smelled like motor oil and laundry soap. He still kissed my forehead like I was something holy. But I was not holy anymore. I was calculating. I was rich. And I was restless. The first real shift came when I started getting invited to private business brunches. Not the ones you post on Instagram. I am talking about luxury backroom deals, hosted in penthouse lofts and exclusive venues where the cheapest handbag in the room cost more than Thomas's entire paycheck. He did not fit in. He did not want to. He wore the same 3 button-ups every Sunday. He never understood why I wanted to fly out just for branding dinners or Fashion Week networking events. But I was not waiting for him to catch up. I was running. The company was legally mine. He had signed the release forms when I registered the LLC. He thought we were protecting assets. He thought we were a team. But I had already paid a lawyer to draft everything in my name. Every cent I earned, every deal I negotiated, came straight to me. He never asked questions. He trusted me. And trust is a dangerous thing in the hands of someone who knows how to abuse it. My lips were fuller. I got subtle injections. My body changed, daily personal training, sculpting, silent surgeries done on business trips. I stopped cooking. I hired a chef. I stopped sleeping before midnight. I started texting Rafe again. He was living in Atlanta now, managing an agency full of high-profile influencers. He invited me to host a wellness weekend. I told Thomas it was a branding opportunity. He kissed me goodbye at the airport. I slept in Rafe's suite that night, wore white silk and nothing underneath it. I told myself it was networking. But we both knew what it really was. Every time I returned home, I felt more trapped. Thomas would have dinner ready. The house would smell like candles. He would ask about my trip, and I would lie, detail by detail, with the kind of confidence only guiltless people can manage. Sometimes he would pull me close and tell me how proud he was. I wanted to scream. Not because I hated him. But because I hated that I ever needed him. And now that I did not need him anymore, I wanted him gone. But I could not leave yet. Not until the launch of the Miami warehouse. Not until the second investment check cleared. Not until I was fully free. It was a Tuesday. Rainy. I was pacing the living room on a client call when Thomas walked in and turned off the TV. He looked at me like he had been holding something for months. He said he missed me. He said I had changed. He said he could feel me slipping. I told him he was imagining things. He reached for my hand, but I pulled away. He asked me if there was someone else. I laughed in his face. Then I did something worse, I kissed him. I made love to him right there on the living room floor. Not because I wanted him, but because I wanted control. He cried after. Said he felt close to me again. I whispered that I loved him. I did not. The Miami expansion was everything I had dreamed of: white floors, LED walls, staff in matching black uniforms. I walked through those doors and felt like a goddess. Thomas never saw it. He never even knew I bought the building. Because I used Rafe again, through a shell company. Thomas thought I was just doing virtual consulting. He had no idea I was in control of 3 major influencer brands under fake names. I wore a platinum Rolex. He still wore the Timex I bought him for our second Christmas. We were no longer equals. We never had been. I decided I would leave after the New York launch. I hired a publicist. I staged photo shoots. I made sure every appearance looked like I was single, even though I was still wearing a ring at home. One night, I tested him. I told him I was thinking of taking a month to find myself. He offered to come with me. That was when I knew he would never let me go without a fight. So I stopped talking about leaving. And started planning it in silence. I called my attorney. I asked about no-fault divorce. I moved my things in small pieces, boxes he never noticed, suitcases I claimed were for business. It was quiet. Too quiet. He was softer than usual. Maybe he sensed it. Maybe his body knew before his heart did. He kissed me like he was holding on to something fading. I let him. Because I was never going to let him again. I sat in the guest room, the same one I used to sleep in when I first moved in, and scrolled through photos of our early days. There was one of me in the kitchen, flour on my nose, laughing at something he had said. Another of us on the hood of his truck, watching fireworks. He had always looked at me like I was the prize. But I never felt like he was mine. I wrote the goodbye note. Simple. Cold. Clean. I am sorry. I need more. Please do not look for me. I left it beside his coffee mug. I drove out of that neighborhood before dawn. My Mercedes humming, the city behind me. I was wearing a $1,000 coat and sipping on cold brew from a gold tumbler. My name was trending. My business was booming. My heart? Empty. But I told myself I could buy peace later. I just needed to make it through the next chapter. Because the next chapter would be everything I had ever wanted. Until it turned into everything I never expected. I was rich. Beyond anything I had imagined. I had 3 assistants, a personal chef, a stylist on retainer, and 2 penthouse condos, one in Miami, one in Manhattan. People called me Boss Babe. Visionary. Untouchable. I smiled for cameras. I signed 5-figure deals in restaurants that required reservations 2 months in advance. But at night, I stared at my reflection in the blackout glass windows and realized something brutal. I had everything, and I felt nothing. No warmth. No peace. No one who loved me without asking for a return. 3 months after I left him, I received a call from a mutual friend back in Indiana. Thomas had shut down the shop. Sold the house. Disappeared. No one knew where he had gone. He had deleted social media. Changed his number. It was like he had erased himself. And I should have felt relief. Instead, I felt something sharp in my chest that I did not have a name for. Guilt? Maybe. But I buried it with champagne. That night, I hosted an influencer party on the rooftop, free cocktails, gold balloons, and women who laughed like they were in love with themselves. I laughed too. Louder than all of them. Because I had to. 6 weeks later, I was contacted by a streaming network. They wanted to create a docuseries about women in business, about how I built my empire from nothing. I smiled during the pitch call, said I would think about it. But deep down, I panicked. Because my story was not clean. I had receipts. I had secrets. I had people, like Rafe, who could destroy everything with one screenshot. And worse, I had Thomas. The man I had built everything on. And then abandoned. If he ever spoke, the world would stop calling me a queen. They would call me a con. It happened during a routine health check. I was preparing for a minor cosmetic procedure when the doctor called me into his office and said I was 6 weeks pregnant. My body went numb. I had been careful. Always. Except that night. The last night. With Thomas. I went silent for days. Ignored emails. Missed meetings. Cancelled appearances. I sat on the balcony for hours, staring at the ocean, trying to imagine a world where I could be a mother. Where I could raise a child in this life built on betrayal and lies. Would the baby have Thomas's eyes? Would it ever ask why I left? Would I ever be able to tell the truth? I was not expecting it. It was a Tuesday. I had just come back from a prenatal appointment when I saw him in the lobby. Thomas. Thinner. Rougher. But still calm, painfully calm. He asked if we could talk. I nodded, too stunned to say no. We rode the elevator in silence. When we reached my penthouse, he looked around and said, "So this is what I was worth." I could not answer. He sat. I stood. He asked if I had ever loved him. I lied. He asked if I was happy. I lied again. Then I told him the truth, about the pregnancy. His eyes did not widen. He just exhaled. And said, "I feel sorry for that child." Not out of spite. But out of honesty. He stood up, walked to the door, and turned back only once. "You built this life on ashes. Do not be surprised when it burns." Then he left. 2 weeks later, it happened. A tabloid broke the story. Self-made millionaire funded by mystery backer, affair rumor spread. Photos leaked, Rafe and I in Atlanta, texts, DMs, even an old video. The comments turned. The brand lost sponsors. The docuseries pulled out. Investors froze payments. And I panicked. I tried to control the narrative, but the internet never forgets. Suddenly, I was not the girl boss. I was a cheater. A liar. A fraud. And worse, a woman with a child on the way and no one left to trust. The hospital room was cold. Too white. Too quiet. I had no visitors. No flowers. Just a nurse who called me Ms. Carver, and a contraction monitor that beeped like a countdown. When my daughter was born, I cried, not from pain, but from grief. She was perfect. Dark hair. Quiet eyes. But when I held her, I realized something that shattered me. I had no idea how to love someone purely. Because I had never done it before. 6 months after the birth, I wrote him a letter. Not to win him back. Not for forgiveness. Just to say thank you. Thank you for saving me when I was no one. Thank you for loving me when I did not love myself. Thank you for not becoming as cruel as I had been. I included a photo of our daughter. No return address. No demands. Just a quiet truth, mailed in a plain envelope. Today, I still have money. I still have status. I still walk into rooms where people know my name. But I no longer pretend. I no longer tell myself I was right. Because I was not. I was ambitious. I was ruthless. I was brilliant in all the wrong ways. And now I live in a mansion with floor-to-ceiling windows and a child who looks at me like I am her entire world. But when I look back, to the shop, the rusted truck, the man who taught me what devotion looked like, I wonder if maybe love is the one currency I will never be able to earn again. Because I spent it all on myself. And the price? Was everything.